Alrighty. Welcome, one and all. I am, as you are all very well aware at this point, the permanently exhausted pigeon, and today we'll be doing some game dev. Welcome. Oh boy, the past 5 days have been rough. Ooh, for 5 days now. This is a long streak for any one symptom to be sticking around hardcore. But for the past 5 days, I have been so utterly fatigued. Chronic fatigue has just been. Oh, it's been. I don't even have words. My brain is not altogether here. If I had to describe it in a brief way, and don't let my more upbeat demeanor fool you, it feels as though the very life essence in my body is, across my entire body, is being forcibly ripped out at all times, making just remaining upright or conscious a challenge. Well, I say challenge. A brutal gladiatorial match with reality itself. It's more fitting. Again. Don't let my upbeat demeanor or my mockery of this fool you. It's been brutal. And you would think naps would be the answer. Unfortunately for me, naps only make things worse. So the only thing to do when chronic fatigue is really kicking me is to force myself to stay awake, no matter how much my body wants to just knock me down. So, that is to say, progress has been. It's actually been okay. It's been a real battle trying to get anything at all done, but it's been going okay. There's actually a basic combat system in the game now. Overall, pretty slow progress for 5 days of work, but given the situation, I'm kind of surprised that I managed to get anything done. So, there's a very strong possibility that I don't even go for the hour that I have been going for because, again, the fatigue is. It's killing me. Well, it's not actually killing me. That would be freedom. Okay, let's hop into it. So, the combat system. Right now, the way that it functions, actually, I'll just hit play, talk about it while I'm going through it. Right now, the way that it functions, we have this sort of makeshift spawner slash teleporter that's going to be animated at some point. We have this little guy. He's full animations now. Walking, attack, and then reactionary impact animations. So if you hit them from the side, they sort of bounce a little bit. Oh yeah, and then I made just a little oops. Made a little particle system, which I had fun putting together. I have tried to work with the Shuriken particle system in Unity quite a number of times. Well, I say quite a number of times. I've tried to use it in the past for projects and games, and I just have struggled so hard to achieve even, half decent results that other people have been putting together. Oh, the particles aren't being destroyed on death. That's something I'll have to look into. But yeah, so enemies have their full AI. They are, of course, tied into the physical movement system. So as you can see, they walk into each other, but they can't walk through each other, and they will push each other. Well, or not, I guess. Just ignore the fact that they're stacked up on top of each other right now. They shouldn't be able to walk into each other. And they will push each other around if one is not moving and the other ones are moving into it. I don't know why they were able to walk into each other. I thought I fixed that. That's fine. just take me back. I spent like 3 weeks or something just trying to fix the collision system for these like really edge cases where things could sometimes move into each other when pushing each other around. Man, the object pushing system, as soon as I added in weight, it broke everything. Turns out, really difficult with a custom solution to have boxes have when you're not actually using any sort of physics system. Not that, I mean, granted, a physics system is wildly complex and it's only simple to use because somebody has done an ungodly amount of work behind the scenes. But rolling your own sort of fate system, whew, even just adding something as simple as pushing objects, difficult. If you're, pushing them into each other or something. But having those objects have variable weights, so they actually move differently depending on the pushing force, and then you have things pushing in the opposite direction. Oh boy, it gets complex very fast. Well, I say complex. It's really, there's just so many different scenarios of ways that things can interact and edge cases that trying to actually like test them all is, oh, I can't even imagine what it's like trying to build out some sort of actual like physics approximation for an engine. Just thinking about trying to debug that with all of the just bizarre interactions that physics systems already have in the best of times. Oh boy. Yeah, so currently, there's a lot of things set up and going on here. A lot of things have been added. The Dodge now has iframes connected to it. Getting hit has iframes connected to it. Both of those are unique from each other. Eventually, damage iframes will be based upon the attacking question. Every attack, I'm not sure how I want to sort of define attacks and stack them up on each other, but I'll figure something out, presumably. What else is... Oh yeah, there's like a tiny bit of time slow when you dodge through an attack. That just gives it a little sort of visual indicator that that thing was like supposed to connect, but it didn't. I don't know. Just something to play around to make it feel a little bit more impactful when you actually manage to dodge through something. What else? Oh yeah, when the player hits something that they can damage, they'll rebound off of it. Yeah, that's the majority of the oh, there we go. Actual add features. Oh yeah, I redid the death for the player as well, so now it just looks better. Little things behind the scenes, such as disabling the player's movement script. Right. So the way that enemies actually function, or the way that I have it defined right now, is that the damaging aspects of an enemy aren't tied into any of the AI or into any of the other aspects. I mean, there's some stuff to do with animation stuff, but it's all tied back into block attributes, which is a script that's attached to more or less every block in the game along the grid. So enemies, the environment blocks, everything else, that just contains some extra information about them. At first, it just contained information about if they had any specific weight to them, if they could be passed through, such as one-way platforms, and if and then also which directions they could be collided from. And the reason for this, each of these corresponds to one axis of the four cardinal directions. I believe 0 is negative x, 1 is positive x, 2 is negative y, and 3 is positive y. And what this allows is to define exactly which sides of an object will be collided with, and then this also is, if I go into the script, it adapts to the rotation of the object. So if the enemy can be collided from only, or if can be damaged from only from the top of it, and it's rotated 90 degrees, even though you still have, positive X, because these are all defined in local space, or it would be positive Y. That would now be positive X, because it adjusts for rotation. It's important, sort of. And then can damage works in the exact same way. It just defines which directions an object can be damaged from. So if I turn off 0 and 1, the x-axis... Oh, right. There we go, that should work. Oops. Now the player will not actually bounce off of this. It should... Yeah, it'll still bounce off of these spawn ones, because this is not part of the prefab that all of these are spawning from. Oh, gosh. But you can still damage it from the top, so... You can define exactly which directions an enemy is vulnerable from, and also that could be updated in real time if you had an enemy that should only be vulnerable from certain directions at certain times, like if it has a shield or something. Yeah, so that's about what's been up. I mean, there's been a bunch of stuff behind the scenes that have been updated to support all these systems. Right now, all of the enemy AI is tied into this enemy animation test that needs to get reworked and turned into a more generalized script so that it can inherit into a bunch of different sub-enemy archetypes. Is that the right word for it? Maybe. Different enemy types, I don't know. Bunch of different enemy types. So you have the one core script, and then each type of enemy will inherit from this with all the general information, parameters, and whatever else. Currently, this functions sort of like a state machine in a way. You have your different states, which are all determined by coroutines. And while one of these is running, none of the other ones can run, so if another one is run while one is already being run, it overrides it. But for the most part, they can't override each other. That's only in special circumstances, like getting damaged will interrupt a attack, for now at least. Yeah, so it's all working in these sort of states, and I have no idea what the best way to do this is, because while I have programmed some level of enemy AI in the past, it has all been very rudimentary and simplistic. There's really not been anything that is terribly complex going on in it, so trying to figure out exactly how I want to set up the enemies in all of the different ways that they can interact, and making it as adaptable as possible, so I'm not having like all these different scripts for all these different enemy types, is the question, as is the question of what to do about different attack animations. My next goal is to figure out what I'm going to do about attacks, so I'm going to create another animation, or maybe more than one more, different attacks that the enemy can do. I want sort of a sweep that you can like jump over, so the sword would like do a 360 around him or something, and you'd be able to jump over that or dodge through it like any other attack. And with that, I need to define sort of a. I think I need to create a class for attacks that defines the damage that they output, the something to do with iframes as well. So damage, iframes. Oh, right, the sort of animation window or windows in which the collider should be active. Probably some other stuff too. But the idea with that would be to have that class defined, and then you could somehow tie that to animations. Yeah, I'm still just not sure the best way to do this. Maybe I'll have to look some stuff up, see what some of the wisdom of others is on this topic. It's amazing how many years I have been sort of hobbying away at game dev without actually learning much of anything. Oh, it's sad, is what it is. It's very sad. But the past 2 years have been great. I've been making a lot of progress, learning a lot, and, one day I might just have a game. Maybe. Yeah, so that's really the next thing is coming up. We're trying to just sort of. The plan first was just to get the enemy up and running. That's sort of the way that I tackle anything when it comes to game dev, is just get whatever I'm trying to make up and running so that I understand what needs to work, what needs to be in there, what doesn't work, what does work, dependencies, all this different stuff, how things interact, and then I can figure out how to make that into a better, more refined system because I actually have an understanding for it. I typically get caught up in trying to plan things out, which is a little ironic because I don't plan things out. So I just make everything up as I go, but yet I still get caught up in the mindset of trying to basically think everything through, start to finish, before I start it. But, doesn't work out, and I just start working on it. It's fatigue. It's getting to me. The exhaustion is really getting to me. Yeah. So that's the next step. It's just trying to figure out what I want to do with the AI, figure out how to turn attacks into classes or some other definition that's easy to add onto and create definitions for. And I'm not sure quite what that looks like, but it'll be interesting to figure out. And hopefully, once I get all these systems worked out, they will be more or less adaptable to any sort of enemy that I want to make. Obviously, there'll have to be some special considerations for really unique types of enemies, but the idea would be to create the core systems that are transferable amongst all the different types, and then if there is extra information or just things required for said enemies, I would add those on later. But yeah, you know what? Actually, that's it. That's where I'm going to call this. Oh, man. There's just not much more to talk about, and there is no way that I'm getting any work done in this frame of mind while trying to stream as well. It is hard enough getting any work done normally, and that's really just like moment by moment, bit by bit. I'll just work a little bit, and then I'll just sort of fade out from existence, and then come back in just like brief moments, get some more work done, and it's quite a ride. But yeah, super short stream. Hard to even much call it a stream, but you know, whatever. It'll make a more manageable video on YouTube, I suppose. So there's that. But yeah, if anyone even sort of managed to catch this, well, bravo, and thank you for being here. Anyone who watches the VOD or checks it out on YouTube, thank you. It means a lot. Hope you enjoyed this rambling and look at the progress that I've been making on the game. And hopefully I have a little bit more next time. A little bit more in me, longer stream, and just a little bit more to talk about. Still, good progress all in all. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. Till next time.